All right, hey, what is going on? Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's your boy Big Mar and my man Gary Leland. I pointed the right way this time.
Yo, yo, yo.
Yo, what's
Right
going
here,
on?
Lamar.
And we are here with the Bitcoin Roomies, man. It's another one of those wonderful days. It's a good, beautiful Thursday, July the 14th, right now at about 11 o'clock. So I always catch us every week at about 11 o'clock. So what's going on, Gary? How you been doing, man?
Man, I'm doing pretty damn good, to be honest with you. I'm doing pretty good. Just getting ready for BitBlock Boom. You know how that is now. Getting ready for a conference there. So working my butt off getting ready for BitBlock Boom. It's been, let's see, over 100 for maybe 2 or 3 weeks here now in Texas. So, we're really enjoying that. That's just wonderful. So that's the really cool thing about BitBlock Boom, Lamar, is everybody gets to come to Texas. And maybe if they're lucky, it'll still be over 100 degrees when they get here. They'll really love it. They'll love that.
Right, it'll be good and warm for them. Good and warm.
They'll love it. They don't need to bring a coat. I mean, there's all kinds of great things about that.
Listen, and I know he said about BitBlock Boom, but Gary, I understand. I'm starting to understand what it feels like to have to run a conference. Like we're running our first conference, and it's called the Blackout Conference. If you saw BitBlockBoom.com, make sure you go check that out. Get some tickets to go to Gary's event that's coming up in August. And then check out the Blackout, which is blackbitcoinbillionaire.com/the Blackout. We just picked up Bitcoin Magazine as a media partner and sponsor. So shout out to Bitcoin Mag. We appreciate y'all, man. Thank you very much for supporting us. They are the biggest Bitcoin news source in the world. Period.
I guess
there's nobody.
Let me give them a shout out too, because they're a media sponsor here. I don't want them going, how come Gary didn't say anything?
So shout out to Bitcoin Mag for supporting
from both of us.
Yes, from supporting the biggest Bitcoin conferences in the world, the best Bitcoin conferences in the world. Yeah, we're the best. I say, listen, the Black Bitcoin Billionaire Blackout is the dopest conference. I say it's the dopest conference in the world, but I appreciate seeing y'all. Everybody out there on. Thank you for the congratulations. I don't know who that was as a Facebook user, but thank y'all for the congratulations.
Hey, Lamar, they can come to BitBlock Boom, okay? And so into August, and then get excited about this heat. And after they go to the hospital and recover, 2 weeks later, they'll be ready to go to your conference.
Right, they'll be ready to cool down, get themselves together. Oh man, oh my gosh. So look,
you know what, Gary? Bitcoin hell, Lamar.
But it's so funny, Gary. Like we are kidding about this, and we're talking about the heat and how hot it is. But you know what else is hot right now? Inflation. Consumer price index is up 9.1%. Like 9.1%. That's the big news of the week. Everybody's talking about inflation. But if you listen to us, probably not
highest in 40 years.
Yeah, the highest in 40 years. Since I graduated from high school, right, Gary? That's what everybody likes to say to me. Since I graduated from high school.
Way before. It's after I graduated from high school.
Right. Right. But it's crazy because everybody's been talking about that this week. But my thing is that those are lagging. Like CPI is a lagging indicator. And what I mean by that, like people are finding out about this, what's going on in the marketplace, because they're collecting data from all over the country and trying to figure out what the prices are on consumer goods all over the country, but they're getting that data late. All of us knew 6 months ago that Little Caesars pizza went from $5 to $5.55.
and some of us, I think, like you and me, knew this a year ago that it was moving up. When I talked to people, I said, man, stuff's going up. They go, what are you talking about? I don't see any price increases. They're seeing it now.
They see it now for sure. And it's just now. Here's what's so crazy to me about the Fed, Gary. This is why I think that we need to figure out something else. Like there's a lot better way to collect data now than to wait and collect it and then try to make reactive moves. To me, it seems like they don't move when they need to move. If they knew inflation was coming, we saw the Dollar Tree go from $1 to $1.29. Like think about it. That's more than 9%. That's a 30% increase in inflation or in prices in that one store. So if you see that kind of thing going across the entire market, inflation is higher than the 7.3 they were getting and the 8.4 and now the 9.1. Inflation is actually even higher than that. So, right.
Well, the White House is announcing that that's not a true number because gas has gone down since then. Oil's dropped since then. So since oil has dropped, that you don't need to pay any attention to this number. Don't look behind the curtain. This isn't real because the price of oil is down. So you know what really gets me about this, Lamar? We got all kind of numbers here. We got oil is up or gas is up 80%. Housing is up 8% or something. That's really unrealistic. But the number that really gets me is food, meals at home. Cooking your meals at home, the inflation on that is at 12%. That's not meals in a restaurant. That's cooking breakfast for your kids, dinner for your family. That's the people who cannot afford to go to a fancy restaurant. That's the bulk of America who's not going to a restaurant and they're not going out to eat every night. They got a family of 3 or 4 kids they're feeding. Their cost on that thing that they're still working to make, it's not prepared, is up over 12%. That's a big number if you take all the other stuff. But that's the number that really gets me. So the people who are just minding their own business, working their job every day, doing what they're supposed to do, they're going to pay 12% more just to feed their kids. That's a big number.
No, that's a huge number. Yeah, what's crazy? I always find myself really having a hard time with how the Fed is thinking about things because they aren't ahead of things and they're always behind things. Then what's going on right now in the market, we already know. Like anybody who's out doing business and has been out, driving around, looking at commercial properties and those kind of things, that we are already in a recession. They won't announce it for another month or so, another 2 months or something like that, a few weeks or whatever, right? But we already know we're in a recession. We can see what's going on out there, Gary. Like commercial buildings the businesses aren't coming back to commercial buildings. We already know there's not a lot of growth in the system. A lot of these companies are still having a hard time getting back to par as far as the people they're employing. They haven't even got back up to where they haven't replenished the staff that they lost during the whole COVID pandemic situation. And think about it, that's been a year now. We talking about a year out, and people still haven't got
to replace that staff.
It's crazy.
All the boomers that were working, like myself, quit working, and we've all gone, why do we want to go back to work? We didn't. Right. We were in the habit of working. My wife and I both, as an example, every day we went to work. We were used to working. We probably would have worked another 10 years. But now, once we took off, we started going, why are we going to work? We don't need to go to work. So they lost a lot of people that didn't need to go to work, but were working. And they don't want to go back to work. Those people are not coming back.
Right. And it's crazy, Gary. Those asset prices skyrocketed, right? So like Bitcoin and Tesla and all of these asset prices skyrocketed. But I think I'm already starting to see asset prices come down some. We are definitely seeing it come down like Bitcoin and all of that. But I mean, from the standpoint of even housing, if you start looking at the real estate market, houses are staying on the market a lot longer than they were before. And those prices are coming down also because of the interest rates being raised. But when you start thinking about that, it's like, okay, so now everything's already starting to come down. And I keep hearing that the Fed is going to bump up the interest rate 75 basis points. I heard
it was 100 basis points this morning. Next month, and then 75 basis points. But, the indicator that I don't think anyone sees and knows, I watched a thing the other day with an interview with a guy who runs a company that repossesses cars. Okay. That's what they do. It's an interview with this guy. And he said, this is their slow time of the year. I didn't know there was a time of year for car repossessions, but obviously this is it. He said they have never repossessed so many cars in the history of him being in business that they cannot repossess. They cannot repossess all the cars that they're getting orders from the banks to repossess. It's so busy. Now that's a number you don't see a percentage of cars repossessed by the banks. But that's a big indicator that couldn't get cars with chips in them. They were buying them overpriced just to get a car. And now cars are dropping in price and they're turning all their cars in because they're going to afford that car. And so that's a big deal. Car repossessions. I've never even thought of that indicator.
Man, Gary, you know what? That is pretty wild, though, Doc. That is pretty wild, man. I didn't even think about that because I knew people were getting premiums because of the chip manufacturers and the supply chain issues. So people were getting premiums on their old used cars. But now, oh man, Gary, like, see, this is the stuff. This is the thing that I'm talking about, Gary. That's why I go out and try to talk to like the everyday Main Street person, the business owner that's owning the landscaping company or the construction company. I like to go talk to them. I like to go drive around and look at the commercial real estate. And I know my town is just my town, but you can start seeing a lot of these same types of things kind of move their way through the system across the entire United States. I've talked to people in real estate. Markets all over the United States are basically slowing down greatly. And if they tighten too much, they literally are going to push us into a recession. And yeah, go ahead, Gary. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want to tell you another indicator I've made up that I've noticed is the bit block boom indicator is what I'm calling it. You can call it whatever you want to. That's what I'm calling it for this conversation.
Okay.
As the markets start crumbling and the price of Bitcoin goes down, when Bitcoin starts going in a bear market, more people spend their Bitcoin. So I'm getting a higher percentage of people, because every time BitBlock Boom's gone on 5 years, and every time during BitBlock Boom, it's really been going up for the most part. Because we started in a bear market the first year. So now that Bitcoin's down to 20,000, I have the highest percentage of people ever paying with Bitcoin. Ever. I mean, it's like every day people were paying with Bitcoin, where they weren't, where it was like, oh, maybe every 50th ticket someone paid for Bitcoin. Now, I think three of my last 4 tickets were Bitcoin payments. So the bear market indicator for Bitcoin for conferences or for someone who accepts Bitcoin is how many people, because they're spending their Bitcoin because they think it's going to go down.
Oh, man. So, but you know what? That's great for the person running the conference.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's like, hey, if you want to pay me in Bitcoin, awesome.
Yeah, so I think like I said, I've just met over the last few days, so I was noticing more purchases. So that's something I'd be interested to hear how you do on that with your sales. We started when like a month of sales have gone by. If your Bitcoin is a decent amount of your sales or not.
Yeah, see, so it's so funny. Remember Miami, we took Bitcoin exclusively for our payment. Actually, no, this year we actually took Bitcoin and debit card. And a lot of people were upset about us getting them to pay in Bitcoin. Like they thought that they needed to get, that's why we added the debit card this year. So I just said, you know what? We'll leave Bitcoin all the way out of it and we'll just let you pay with your debit card. Because people are like, Lamar, I thought you told us we were supposed to be saving these Bitcoin. Why am I giving it to you for this?
Did they not know they can go buy some Bitcoin?
Right.
Cash App and then use that? Because I never spend my Bitcoin once I put it in my cold wallet. If I got to pay for something with Bitcoin, I go buy it and send that right out.
Right. And I think that's what it is. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to confuse you anymore. Like, and I'm not listen, again, it's your money. You do what you want. Again, I always say, I don't recommend anything because it's your house and your spouse. It's your money. You do what you're going to do with it. But yeah, it's your house and your spouse. That's what I always say. I'm not in your house and I'm not with your spouse. So what you do with your money, make sure you get your house right first. I don't know what's going on in your house, but for us, we definitely believe in Bitcoin as a savings instrument, a way to protect and store your wealth over a long period of time. And just because the price went down right now doesn't mean that it's going to stay down forever. And the fact that we understand how Bitcoin actually works is only 21 million. And as more people start to wake up to the value of it, we believe there'll be more demand in the future. So
I'll tell you another indicator that I've noticed, and I don't have a name for this one. It's just something I've noticed. During 2018 bear market, if you were into Bitcoin in 2017 on the run up, then so if you were doing meetups, if you were like going, hey, I'm going to do meetups and spread the word during 2017, oh my gosh, those meetups were packed. People were coming. I don't know what this is. I just heard about it and I saw a meetup. I wanted to come. But when 2018 hit, those meetups dwindled to 4 or 5 people. No one was coming. I mean, they were going, I'm staying away from that Ponzi scheme. But now, if you go to a meetup now, even though it could be at the bottom of the bear market, so this is a terrible part of the bear market, they're still packed. I went to one the other night. Every time I go to one, there's 30 people, 40 people. So they're still packed. So it's not like everybody gave up on them. And a lot of them are new people too. So it's not like they're going, oh, I'm not messing with this Bitcoin. They're going, I'm interested in this Bitcoin. It sounds like a good price. So that's a big difference on the amount of people interested in it this bear market compared to the last bear market.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the profiles have definitely been risen from a Bitcoin perspective. And listen, as much as we don't like fooling around with this whole NFT stuff, I think NFTs and this other pop culture types of things have brought attention to also Bitcoin. So you can't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater, but leave the NFTs alone for investment purposes. And again, it's not a recommendation; it's just my belief.
Just my
But
thoughts. My
yeah,
thoughts.
my
I
thoughts.
agree
Yeah, my
100%.
thoughts. But here, so Gary, real quick, just for station identification, this is the Bitcoin Roomies. My name is Big Mar. We got my man Gary Leland, and you can catch us everywhere. If you're watching us right now on Twitter, please retweet, like it, share it with everybody. If you're listening to us inside of the space, please retweet it, send it out, let everybody know. If you're on Facebook, make sure you hit the share button. Get the people out here. Let them see what's going on. Because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about CPI. And for people who don't even know what CPI is a measurement of the consumer goods and the price increase or decrease in it over a certain period of time. That's what CPI is. We've been talking about this in Bitcoin for a while. We've been talking about inflation and the fact that they put so many dollars into the system that it messed around and deflated or diluted the amount of dollars that are out there, which then made products and goods worth so much more accordingly. Then you put that with the fact that we wind up having crazy supply chain issues because of what happened with COVID, and now you're seeing these record numbers of CPI, and that's a huge thing for most people. That's why and here's what you also see. You also see usually what you'll have when inflation's coming. You have a rise first of all in assets. So asset prices will go up first. And then what you'll see is that starts to trickle down and there becomes a rise in the consumer price index, right? At that point, that's when you start seeing the Fed doing something, which I don't know, man. I truly think they're trying to get us back into a moment of recession almost, so they can pull these numbers down, get everything slowed back down, and create these types of cycles. And I think it's kind of crazy that happens that way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, under Volcker, when this happened in
Yeah.
the late 70s, interest rates, I mean, you were paying 13% to buy a house, and that was on an adjustable rate mortgage because they thought it would go up more and they didn't want to miss out. So
right.
this could be a lot higher than it is now. I mean, this could be a way lot higher than it is now. Luckily, Volcker's not in there. We'd be at 10% probably.
Right. Corey Marshall said paper prices still going up. Printing services prices are going up. Publisher prices are up as well. So he's seeing a rise in paper and publishing and those kind of things. So, man, I think the market is, listen, for everybody out there, don't listen to us. Go talk to people on the street. Go talk to entrepreneurs, business owners. Let them tell you what's going on out here. I don't even think, to be honest, I don't think Prime Day is doing what they thought it would do. Have you heard anybody talking about Prime Day? Prime Day used to be the biggest thing. It's like Christmas in July, right?
It wasn't it 2 days this year?
Listen, man. Gary.
Yeah, people are not talking about anything in a good mood. People are not spending their money. People are concerned. People are worried about what's going to happen 6 months from now. It affects a lot of people's mental thoughts on their spending habits, and that causes everything. It's a chain reaction,
Right. Here's what's going to happen, Gary. First of all, a lot of the people are not taking the jobs that they had. Like my daughter literally went to a restaurant to get hired, and they just started her like this. Like she went that day to put an application in, and the next day she was orientating. They didn't even go through anything. She put her application in and got hired immediately. And she keeps telling all her friends, because they in high school, they want these kind of jobs. So she telling all her friends, go up there and get a job. And every one of them is going to the same restaurant and getting a job. And the the manager, bless him, she said at the interview he was knocking on wood saying, hopefully you'll stay with us. And he knocked on the table.
Actually, I had at a studio. You've been on at the Bitcoin Boomer show. I do that at Biz TV Studios. They have a lot of people that work there. And he said he would put an ad in the paper. He says they don't pay a lot for these menial jobs, but they would pay like $10, $15. And he said if he put it, because they're close to a college, right up you can walk from the college dorms to their office. Said Used to be 2 years ago, they put an ad in there and they'd have next day 150 people applied. sent in a request about the job. He said now he can put an ad in there, and 2 weeks can go by, and maybe there's 4 people that have requested a job there.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like Gary. This is what I'm saying. Like I am having a hard time seeing where growth is going to come from in the future in this economy, because there's no new true technological advancement that has come out to kind of push people to push demand, so to speak. Like, where is the demand going to come from, Gary? And you know what else happened during the pandemic? A lot of people found out they could live without a lot of stuff.
Yeah, right? And a lot of them got a little assistance too.
Yeah, that too.
So you put that together, and they go, "Wait a second, I don't have to work as hard," and the ones are working are getting more money. I mean, just because they need a body so bad, they're paying more money. I don't have any problem with minimum wage going up, but I think everybody's paying a lot higher minimum wage right now. That's why I think every restaurant you go in has 10 empty tables because they don't have staff. So they're hiring people, anyone they can, and paying what they need to.
And so that's crazy. Do you see what this guy said? He said, no cap. I saw a gumball machine that takes credit cards. He said Corey Marshall.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
A gumball machine that takes credit cards.
I thought gumballs were a penny. I thought maybe they were a nickel now. I didn't know they had gone up to 75 cents.
Man, Gary. I think so let's talk about this, Gary. So if we get if they tighten too much, we get a crazy crunch where businesses aren't really trying to expand their businesses anymore. They still were trying to hire, but now we mess around and go into a place where there's no more growth. There's not a lot of people hiring. That's why it's a weird environment for me, because people are hiring, but that's because they don't have what they had, and it's weird. Do you see us going into a place where we're going to hear Congress people start to talk about UBI to kind of help some of the issues?
I think we already have UBI to a degree. I think, when Andrew Yang ran, which was just the last election cycle, I guess, wasn't it? On UBI, I thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever heard of. I mean, but I'm an old boomer, and I grew up with different thoughts than a lot of people. But I thought that was the thing I've ever heard of. But now I think, to a degree, UBI is in place for some people. I talked to someone that we know. I won't say their name, but they had a kid, and they started getting money in the bank, deposited. They didn't even know it was coming. And he's a Bitcoiner that you know real well. And he told me, he said, yeah, I get money every month now. It just shows up in my account for having a kid. So obviously it's happening to a degree already. And I think that the United States is more accepting of that now than it was when Yang ran on it. And Yang wouldn't be looked at as crazy now like he was just 3 years ago.
Well, you know why, though, Gary? Because we just came through an actual other type of universal basic income. Not only did people get money for their kids, but we had this crazy stimulus that went directly into people's bank accounts. So the United States has already, I think, to be honest, it almost felt like they were trying to prove it out. Like, can we put money into these people's accounts? Can everybody get money at the same time? And, of course, the answer was yes for a lot of people who were able to get the stimulus based on their income. Right.
Well, they should have just given everybody $40,000 and not given the banks anything, because the banks would have got it all. They get it all. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have to say, give the banks all this money to save them. Just give it to all the people, give it out, and they'll all spend it. Some of them are going to save it. Like you and I probably buy a lot of Bitcoin, but some people are going to spend all $40,000, whether it's paying school bills, back taxes, buying a house, whatever. Most people are going to spend the majority of it. And then who's going to get it when it's all said and done? The banks.
Right. So, here's what's so crazy, Gary. It's like people used to talk about trickle down. That never works. But you know what? Float up always works. If you give money to the poorest people on the planet, they're going to spend it because the poor people have to spend it to live. So if you give money to them, they're going to put money into the market. Who does it go to? The business owners, the people that actually are running the businesses that they're buying things from. So the money winds up getting into the hands of the business owners anyway. And it winds up getting into the hands of the banks and everybody else because of that, right? So it's like, if people would go the other way, which I think that's what UBI is attempting to do, I think what's going to happen is that's the thing that could actually bring growth. I believe, because you start pumping money at the bottom, it's going to make its way to the top. It has to.
Well, let's just face it. The banks run everything when it's said and done. I mean, the banks run everything. You never Well, I think a bank did go out of business during. They let one bank fail. I mean, they must have been pissed at them during the some time ago. But for the most part, banks run everything. They don't fail. And then, there was a economist like 100 years ago or something. I don't even know his name. I've just read it several times, and I keep trying to remember it and can't. But his statement was, if you all the money in the world, put it in a big pot, and you divided it equally among everybody in the world, within a short matter of time, it would go all back to where it came from. The people who had none probably still would have none because they would have spent it. People who had a lot would get that money from those people who spent it. So it would all go back to where it came from. So if that's the case, which I think that's a true statement, if you took all the money and gave it to everybody, the banks would get it all back anyway. That's what I'm saying. They'd get it all back anyway. And everybody would improve their lifestyle.
That's why I think it's a game. Gary, I think on one of our earliest shows, I talked to you about the spreadsheet we put together about it. And you told me you said, Lamar, why didn't you say anything like this to anybody? I think we were talking about how we put a model together where the richest guy, everybody paid a percentage. Yeah. And it wound up getting to the point where the bottom guy wound up making double his money. The richest guy actually saved on taxes because he got a refund. And it's like, if you start thinking about it from that way, you can change a lot of things. I think UBI, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I am, right? Like, I'm not a big fan of it, but if you're going to give money and put money into the system, put it in with the people at the bottom, to the least of these, right? Give it to the people who are having a hard time. Let the money go through their hands first. And I'm telling you, it's going to create jobs because they're going to spend it. It's going to get spent. A lot of times, people who are at the bottom rungs of the socioeconomic ladder don't have great spending habits or saving habits or investing habits.
Well, so they need to spend the money. They have things that immediately they
need. Exactly. And so, and it's funny because, listen, what's my man? Joe Biden, he made a bunch of promises and it feels like he's not trying to attempt any of them. That's why people have a hard time with Donald Trump. And I'm not a Donald Trump fan by any stretch. But the fact is, he was trying to do what he told his constituents he was going to do. He was trying to do it. It's crazy.
Well, Biden did say the price of gas was going to go up under him. So he was
right. He was right. But he hasn't. The thing is that he hasn't pushed like everyone else. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I mean, not like everyone else, but like how Donald Trump tried to push the stuff that he said on the campaign trail.
Joe Biden is a typical politician. And I think the majority of politicians just say whatever they want to, because that's when they say that, whenever politicians don't do what they said, their press corps or whatever always says, a lot of things are said during elections. That's typical. Not everything happens. So as though it's like, oh, it's expected. You're expected to lie when you run, is what the statement will be they're making. Right. He was winning. Of course he lied. Oh, that's what you do. I mean, so.
And that's what I'm saying. If he had the same mentality as Trump, like to try to go by any means necessary, even if the stuff sounds crazy, I would respect it a lot more. Because it's like, think about it. All these people out here who was assuming if they voted Joe Biden in, they would get relief on their freaking college loans, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's happening, Gary. I don't think it's happening. I think it was.
I think that college loan thing is a scam to begin with. Colleges were not this high until college loans get out. Everybody knows this. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of research. I mean, the more the loans are available, the higher college costs. It's just weird as hell. And what costs so damn much at college? They've had those campuses forever. They've had those buildings forever. They don't pay any tax. I mean, and then they have people who went there that are successful actually just giving them money. So
right.
And then how many people were in a class? 200 with one professor? What's he making? That he can teach 200 people and they all pay all those big bucks and half of them might be at home now. That's a scam. Someone needs to look into that. They need to do a thing on that. Talk about, there it is. We need to check that out for damn sure.
Yeah, that's pure. Listen, that is pure inflation. They put more money into the system, into the college system by way of loans. They lent more money into the system. And what happened to the price of college? Skyrocketed.
And Felana's right here. She says, especially when you can't file bankruptcy for college loans.
And clear the debt.
Yeah. What else there's not many things you can't file bankruptcy. They even took care of. That's kind of like the people who make vaccines. They got it passed. They can't be sued if there are things that happen from the vaccine being bad. And the banks, the same way on bank loans. Yeah, we'll lend you all the money you want. Doesn't matter if you have any credit. You can't get rid of this. You'll pay it the rest of your lives.
Right. Look, listen, I'm gonna tell you guys because this has been great today with the comments. Thank you guys for commenting. For Lana, Corey Marshall, E. Debnam on YouTube. Thank y'all for commenting. If you're on Twitter and you want to leave a comment, all you need to do is hashtag Bitcoin Roomies, and I'll see it. Like hashtag Bitcoin Roomies and leave your comment. Like matter of fact, there's a little button if you're listening right now on Twitter. There's a little button down at the bottom that has the plus tweet. Tweet this space out and ask your question in that way too. Do hashtag Bitcoin Roomies, and I definitely will see it, and we'll get your questions up here too. But yeah, Gary, I mean,
the question I hear a lot, Lamar, is people that I hang out with, which are against that. I'll go ahead and say that right now. People that I are in my world, everyday world, are against that. They want to know if they will get refunded for all the money they spent putting their damn kids through college.
Right.
They're going, okay, that's cool. If you're going to get your college free, my kids should get it free too. So I would like to get my money back. Because, I mean, that I spent 2 kids to go to college. I'm telling you, it was a lot of damn money. I had to sell a house I had to finish it up. I'd like to have that house right now. So do I get my money back? Just throwing that out there.
That's
You're going to be giving it out. You got to go back a certain amount of years to say, hey, all these cats. I think it would be too long for me. My kids have been out since 2008. But I mean, how about you just got through paying for your kids to go to college this year? For the last 4 years, you've been paying for your kid to go to college. And then the guy who was buying Corvettes and partying all the time, kid got to school for free. And you were humping your ass off every day.
Hey.
Friend of mine sold pizzas at night to make sure he could send his kids to college.
You make a really great point, Gary. Lord, man. I hadn't thought about that point, but that is true. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have not. Oh my gosh, Gary.
Yeah, I'm not saying, like I said, I'm too far away. I've been out. My kids been out too long and stuff. But they'd have to make a time period, like for the last 5 years. If you paid your kids way through school, especially if you had to work a second job just to do that.
Right. Because listen, people who have school loans and went to school, if they get theirs free, that's almost like it's almost like, it was good you took a school loan. Whereas, like you said, what about the people that worked their way through? Maybe their folks didn't have any money to help them get through, and they just worked and paid off their, school, their schooling.
Than 4 years. It took them because they were paying for it themselves, working while they were going to school. Maybe it took them 6, maybe it took them 7 years. So because they paid for it themselves, that student gets ripped off with the guy who was just like, not caring, just going and having a great time and getting not about it until he got out. Yeah, right. It's more than just giving people money to pay off the banks, but it's only going to go to pay off the banks. Because why? Like I said, the banks rule everything.
They running everything. So even when you give people the money back, it's not really for them. It's really to make sure that the banks are square and they flush with capital.
And they get it right away. They don't have to wait 20 years screwing with you. Did you know, this is something else I don't think a lot of people know. If you don't pay your loans, I know this from my business, and the bank, I don't know, the bank, I can't remember who it was now. Well, they contact your employer and they say, hey, you need to send us a portion of his checks. So you don't have a choice. Every week or every month or whatever, you have to say, Susie Q, I got to take 10% of your check and send it to pay for your loans. But the thing I don't think most people know is they allow you to keep a percentage for doing it, for messing with that. So I could say, and these amounts don't hold me to it because it's been a while. I've only had this happen once, but maybe I was having to send 10% in every month for Susie Q. But if I wanted, I could pull out another 2 and keep it for me. For having to mess with it. It was like, oh, you're going to do some work, so Susie Q can pay you too. So, which I didn't take just to be up. I did not take the percentage for me. Susie Q was having it hard enough. So that's a weird deal. They actually take your money and then say, hey, your boss can have some too.
So you garnish him. This is crazy, Gary. This is crazy. So I didn't even know that, but I get what you're saying. It's like, they get people into these loans. Here's the thing, Gary, that trips me out the most is that we live in an environment where we were encouraging people to go get degrees, college degrees, like history degrees that you really can't do much with in the market. And no shame to anybody who got a history degree. are philosophy degrees, right? That you can't do much with in the market.
French literature.
Yeah, you can't really do much with
not a lot of
it in this
calls for
market.
that.
Right.
Maybe in France, if you're moving.
But
to France.
they encourage people to get it, then they get in all of this debt, and then they wind up just becoming the workers. To be honest, it almost feels like they were trying to create a slave class, Gary. Trying to create people that'll always be working.
Well, that's never happened before.
I'm just saying, Gary. It seems kind of odd because it's funny. I always tell the story I heard. They said in South America, when they took factories in South America, people were living in beautiful paradise. And so when they took the factories there, people would work for a little bit, and they was like, "Man, I'm not doing this." They would leave because it's like, I'd rather be out in paradise. I don't want to be in this factory working my butt off. Yeah. They said what they did was they started to put like advertisements about cars and jewelry and stuff like that on TV. And then they started offering credit for people to get them. And so when people started seeing all of this stuff, like shiny stuff that they may have wanted, then they went and got the credit. Then guess what? Now all of a sudden you got to pay off the debt. So guess what happened to the factories? Everybody went back into the factories. They started working.
And I think there are countries where they do have debtors' prison.
No, I mean, in this country, if you talk to anybody and say, "Hey, why do you work so hard?" I have to pay my bills. Think about that, Gary. Not to live a happy existence, not to have a wonderful life. Why do you work so hard? Because I got to get these bills paid. Right?
Our society, our financial system is set up so that people will spend money to keep the economy rolling. So, yeah, you got 2% inflation per year is what they want. But that in the back of your mind has you going, I better spend this and buy this because in 5 years, it'll cost a lot more. Because you always hear, oh, that was $1 million. But in today's money, that's $100 million or something. So people have that in their mind. Now, it used to be before we had that, people saved a lot more of their money. And they didn't have to work to pay their bills because they saved their money.
Right.
And they actually saved it because it wasn't going down in value. It might actually go up in value.
Right. Think about this though, Gary. In some places, they won't allow you to collect your own rainwater. So you can there are certain places that won't allow you to do that. There are certain places that won't allow you to grow a garden. To me, that just feels like, no, we do not want you to be self-sustainable, even if you want it to be, because we want you to have to come to the system. You got to keep putting your time and efforts into our system.
But you have the same thing just in like a city, like where I live in Texas. This city has zoning that a house anywhere in the city, and it's a big city, a house has to be 60, 70% brick. A house has to be a minimum square footage of, let's say, 1,200 square feet. A house has to be all these things. A house has to have. So you can't have a house. Why can't there be like areas in the city where you go, well, in this area you can have a 500 square foot house,
right?
And it can be wood, and the
tiny
lots
home
the lots can be smaller, and then people can go, hey, a house over there now. I don't have to rent,
right?
Or I don't have to live on the street. Or I don't have to, like there's no trailer parks in this city anymore. The only one I know of is left is like grandfathered in, so they don't have trailer parks anymore here. So cities, not all cities, but some cities have made it so you cannot afford to live there without being in debt.
Man, that's what I'm saying, Gary. It's a setup.
We've
been set up, Gary. We've been set up.
When I first met, we were so opposite on our thinking, and I would have to say you drugged me more over to your side than I drug you over to my side.
But no,
now I agree with you on a lot of things.
Yeah, because I don't know, Gary. I think we just have to. I don't know, man. Like here's the country that was supposed to be like built on freedom, and the more and more we keep moving down the path, we start to get more away from freedom. And it's funny because I say this thing all the time. I say the same thing all the time. A revolution is what? It's all the way back, right? If you have a revolution, it starts at a point, it comes all the way back around. So the American Revolution, the very thing they were trying to get away from, the taxes. Think about how this country was started.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying to get away from the taxes and get away from all of this like legalese and all of these things so you can have freedom and be able to do what you wanted and believe in what you wanted, that kind of thing. And all we doing is in this revolution, we getting right back up to the very thing that
And
this country was
and
built to go against.
all the 13 colonies were so worried about a central government controlling them that they were setting it up not to be controlled by a central government. And now, look who's controlling 50 states instead of 13, a central government. They put things into effect like the Highway Bill Act and things like that, or Highway Commerce Act, whatever it's called. But they put things in place so they do control everything now. So this guy, Jamie?
Yeah, did you see what he said? He said for the student loan forgiveness checkout, I'm gonna go to it right now. Y'all know how we do. We're gonna show you this on the actual page. Let's see.
I didn't know who he was. It could have been a scam for. I didn't know.
Yeah, I know.
You do him. I don't know him.
Yeah, I know Jamie.
But that's cool if people can get any. Yeah, I don't mind anyone getting student loan forgiveness. I'm not against it. Don't get me wrong.
No, me neither. Believe me, I'm not. Let's see. Let's see if we do this. Let's share. Let's get that up here real quick. I actually put the site up. So here it is. Document preparation for income-based benefits. Application and submission. We are here to educate you about federal assistance programs and guide you through the application process. Okay, well, listen, I get this. Okay, this might be student loan forgiveness from like an organization that's trying to help people for income-based situations. I get it. My thing is that where is the government? Like, when is the United States government? See what I'm saying? This says this is an accredited business. So I don't know, Jamie. I don't know if this is like
Well, he said it worked for him.
Yeah, he said it worked for him. So listen, everybody, I'm not gonna tell you go try it because I don't know for sure exactly what this is. Jamie, we got to bring you on one time. We got to bring you up one time and see what this is because I don't know what this is. I've never seen this before, so I have to go check it out. But he said that's the federal student loan program, fed-pro.org.
Now, I got a question for you, Lamar.
Yeah.
Next month, do you foresee the everything going up as far as inflation, all the numbers? Do you see that going up again for another month? Or do you think we're at a point that we're going to start leveling out since oil is priced down now, like the administration says?
But you got to know it's lagging. So I would say if we see next month, I think we're going to see it's still going to be up because it hasn't had a chance to go through the market. Maybe September, I think September we'll start seeing a different number. But I think that next month we're also going to start seeing GDP dropped another time.
Hey, so I got another question for you. So I got a lot of questions here. Acquiring minds want to know these things, Lamar. Like right now, I was looking at the euro because we're getting ready to go over to end of the year over the euro. The euro is like compatible, like $1 equals €1 now. Last time I was over there, $1 was 150 in euros. A euro was $1.50. Excuse me, I got it wrong. So what do you see happening now that the U.S. currency, even though it's in shambles, is even in more shambles? So our currency is up against the world. How do you see that affecting things? So as far as with us going, since
that should make a lot of our imports cheaper, right?
Yeah, but our exports are going to be more expensive.
Right. It means it's going to be harder for us to get stuff out. But what I'm saying is that think about it. We import most of this stuff anyway. So we should see prices coming down. And another thing that I've been noticing, and I actually heard this from someone who works
we don't make much here.
Yeah. I know somebody who works at a very large company, very Fortune 500 type company. And they were saying that they ordered a lot of things before. They were stuck on the ships, but now those things are starting to get, unloaded. And so now they have over inventory. It's too much inventory. And so I even saw something about Target. I read an article about Target has way too much inventory. And so I think prices will start to come down. I think that the CPI won't reflect that immediately. I don't think so because it's always behind. But I think prices will start to come down because there is a lot of inventory from these large organizations that already have made these orders. They got stuck in the ports and they still had to keep making them just because they had to make sure they kept up with it. So now when they're getting it, now you have too much inventory for a small period of time. And so they got to get their stuff back into check. So I think the prices will come down because of the over ordering. I truthfully believe that. But I'm saying I just don't think CPI is going to show it. And the crazy part is that inventory is the worst thing for a business to have. It's the worst asset for a business to have because it's a bunch of cash locked up into.
And at the end of the year, they have to pay taxes on all that inventory.
So yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just that's why it's very interesting. The whole
but you still have
yeah
the issue with my sister's in the import business. She ships stuff all over the place. You know, a container that was a year ago was $3,000 to ship here is
yeah
still like $10,000 to $20,000 to ship here. So
man,
you
but
still have that, and that was
yeah
I talked to her day before yesterday, and she told me that.
yeah that's what I'm saying, Gary. Like I think the pandemic screwed up what we know. How we know things to go and the way they go, I think it screwed up a lot of that. Of course, it's a pandemic, it's something different. But I think also the way we reacted to it by shutting down whole entire microeconomies, these cities and all of that stuff, it's our entire world got changed a lot. And I think that the guys up at the Fed, the people in Congress, they're not really knowing how to deal with this and maneuver this in the correct way. Because again, if you don't have a true economic driver, like some sort of higher end technology, some technology that changes the want and demand for things. Because think about it, people are getting tired of buying a new iPhone. Like people are like, screw this, I'm not getting another iPhone with it just because it got 5 cameras on it instead of 4, right? Like there's not a huge
I
amount
still
of
got one camera, Lamar. I mean, yeah,
right,
my phone works fine.
right. That's what
And
you
my
see.
pictures look good to me.
Right. That's what I'm saying. We haven't had a huge breakthrough and an advancement into technology. If you think about like the things that move the needle, the internet, personal computers, actually phones, right? Like actual like these smartphones, smart computers that move the needle. I haven't seen a new technological advance that I believe is going to move the needle in the way those were to actually cause the demand in the marketplace for this stuff. Because people don't understand. Like when you buy iPhones, it actually gets the balls rolling. Right? When you buy a lot of cars, like cars used to be a huge part of our economy. You buy a lot of cars provide jobs for manufacturers. Manufacturing people go out, they go buy houses, then those houses need furniture, and then the furniture needs wood, and so on and so forth. So that stuff kind of like trickles throughout the entire economy when you have a new technology. And I just don't know where it's coming from. A lot of people want it to be the Oculus and the metaverse and all of this stuff. But I haven't seen anything that looks like. And who am I? I'm not like a fortune teller, but I just haven't seen it.
Well, you know, you'll own nothing and you'll like it. I mean, you know, so
Man.
get used to it. Get used to it, buddy.
Whew. My gosh, Gary, that's a thing right there. We got somebody says strong alien there. Pleasy entertainment, strong alien. But let me go back to this comment from Corey Marshall. For everybody who's just listening and they can't see the comment, he says, maybe we should do what they did, talking about the first Americans that came over. We should leave on a boat, sail back, and say we discovered this land, and then claim this land for the plebs and take over. Start a new revolution. The problem with revolutions is that you wind up becoming what you fought. That's the craziest part. You fought it so hard that you wind up becoming exactly what you think you were fighting.
Kind of like Animal Farm. I mean, you know, those pigs ended up running everything.
Everything. This is what I'm saying. I think that's where we are. And I think one of the things that I'm always talking about, we'll talk about in a whole nother episode because this was about over. But one thing I'm always talking about is self-sustainability. Like looking for places that you can become more self-sustained so you're not dependent upon this system. And that's why I'm into Bitcoin. That's why I love Bitcoin, because it's always been about freedom to me. It's always been about the fact that I can have this asset that I control. Nobody else can control it. Nobody else can send it for me. They can't stop me from sending it somewhere and actually hold this value because it's only 21 million. I can hold that as more people want demand for it. I can hold it. And that to me is a very powerful thing. It's an empowering technology. And I think we just got to get back to that. You know what I'm saying? We just got to get back to
empowerment. People that are just worried about making money, they like the 20,000 cryptos. The people that are the people who are in the sovereign freedom and change the world, they're into Bitcoin. I think that's how you on the two sections, you know?
Right.
And then,
right.
Of course, there's some people who want to make money that are into Bitcoin, but people who directly go for Bitcoin are more worried about the self-sovereignty and the possibilities that it can change and do for the world than they are the everyday, let's making some money, like playing the stock market.
Right. Just flipping stuff. So with that said, man, I think this has been a great episode. The Bitcoin Roomies. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Before we go, give everybody a reminder where to find your conference, because some people came in at the end.
Yes, that is true. First, But first, we're going to tell people where to go find BitBlock Boom, since that conference comes right before my conference and it's in Texas. So
last weekend in August.
Yeah, last weekend of August, BitBlock Boom Conference, a true Bitcoin conference. You see this? We got 20 hours before the price goes up. So make sure you go check it. If you're going to get your tickets, go get them now. It's BitBlock Boom. And then, of course, the Black Bitcoin Billionaire Blackout. Make sure you go check that out. It's our first year of doing it. It's September the 2nd through the 4th in Charlotte, North Carolina. Make sure y'all get there. As you can see, we have an amazing time. You see, there was a handsome young man that was standing back there.
I saw that good-looking guy there.
You see him? But yeah, make sure y'all jump in. We just got announced. Let me get to the bottom of the page here. Yeah, there he is again. Let's get to the bottom of the page here. We just announced that we have a new media partner, Bitcoin Magazine. Shout out to Bitcoin Magazine for partnering on the Blackout Conference. This is our first one in Charlotte. It's going to be huge. Shout out to everybody who's already bought their tickets. Listen, I didn't want to say it because if I say it, then everybody goes and does it because of that. But here's what I'm going to tell you guys, right? If you go get your tickets early, the same way we're giving people 50% off if you got the Miami ticket, you will be able to get a special piece of merchandise in the next week. If you buy your ticket in the month of July, I guess what is the next week? So 2 weeks. If you buy your ticket within the month of July with the early bird special, you're going to get an early bird piece of merch. And we have it. I've already shown people what it looks like, but I have not launched it yet. But if you get your ticket, as a matter of fact, there's a limited number of them. So you got to get your ticket within the month of July and be one of the people within the first 200 tickets. If you're one of the people in the first 200 tickets, and they're moving pretty quick right now, if you're one of the people within the first 200 tickets, you're going to get this special piece of merch. So make sure you go ahead and get your ticket now. I was trying to make it a surprise and be like, hey, you got a special thing. But you know what? I'm going to tell people, if you get your ticket now, the first 200 people are going to get a special piece of merch. The first 100 people that show up at the conference are going to get me and Gary's book, Bitcoin and the American Dream.
Oh, and if they come to my conference, they all get it. So, I mean, you're giving out 600 copies of that book.
Oh, my gosh.
If you come Saturday, you bet. I told Rizzo this morning. You better have your
I got to sign.
Randy.
I got to get
600 people walking around with copies of that book.
I gotta get ready to sign, man. So yeah, man, we'd like to thank y'all. Hey, I appreciate it. Listen, look at this, Gary. Look, see that? We doing good, man.
Well, thank you, Debonair.
Yeah, E. Debnam L. Thank you. He said, yes, this has been another great episode. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate everybody who's been listening.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. We enjoy it completely. Thanks for the comments.
We definitely do. Everybody over on Clubhouse, this was the first time that we've done it live on Clubhouse at the same time. Thank y'all for joining. We had about 212 people that joined over there, Gary, on the very first time. We doing good, man. We doing well. We're going to keep this stuff coming to you.
We're getting ready to do a podcast. We're getting ready to send this out as a podcast once we get Lamar to get me some artwork. This will start going out as a podcast every week, and you can subscribe in case you miss it. You can catch it there.
You can catch it there, man. We having a good time. Gary and I think we're very highly opinionated people that like each other. And you know what I'm saying? We really do like each other. So we're going to have a really good show. But thank you all for listening. I just want to say, as I always say, live love, love life. If you live love, you'll love your life. See you next time. Bitcoin.